Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. It's 11 a.m. on September 20th, 2022. This is a regular meeting of the Lake County Board of County Commissioners. Commissioner Fiedler is with us online today. He's at the Mountain Towns Climate Summit, and Commissioner Mudge and I are here in person. Let me go ahead and pull up my agenda. Okay, perfect, thank you. If you'll all turn off your cell phones and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Thank you all. Okay. We'll move into the approval of the agenda, and I think we have a little bit of change to the agenda today, given that we have some short staffing and not the full board able to be here today. So we'll have a couple changes on our agenda. We would like to remove items
correct, Chris, Human Services IT is not ready.
Yes, that's
okay.
correct, thank you.
Remove 4, 5.
I think just 4 and 6.
4 and 6.
Yep.
Okay.
And then 7 will be a discussion, not a decision.
Okay. Sounds great. So we will remove items 2, 4, and 6 this morning from our agenda. And so with that, I will entertain a motion for approval.
Okay, I'll move to approve or move to remove items 2, 4, and 6 from the agenda. And approve the rest of the agenda. Sorry, I don't know why I was thrown there. My computer's on.
Sorry. Okay.
A second.
Thank you. Seeing any further discussion? No?
None for me.
Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay. Community informational items, Commissioner Mudge.
I don't have a whole lot. The mitigation work is ongoing, and partners are working together behind the scenes to make sure that we can kind of address and take advantage of some funding opportunities that continue to pop up on wildfire mitigation. One of our local neighborhoods is taking initiative, which is really awesome, to go after the furworm, and I can't remember what that acronym stands for. I apologize, but it's great to see that initiative being taken, and they're working with the Colorado State Forest Service as well. So definitely supporting them and doing some work on their own and seeking out some funding.
Cool. Commissioner Fiedler, do you have any community informational items?
Nothing for me today, thanks.
Okay. I just wanted to let everyone know that the county was awarded $1.7 million from our MMOF grant application to implement our transit, local transit system that will tie into our regional transit efforts. We were also awarded $700,000 for planning for traffic and pedestrian safety, sorry, not Safeway. Safety on a couple of our big intersections like sanitation, the lanes that merge at Safeway and go split between 24 and 91. So thank you, Commissioner Fiedler, for that application and for planning, and we'll look forward to working on that. Any commissioner clarifications today?
I have none, thank you.
None for me. Commissioner Fiedler, do you have any commissioner clarifications?
None for me.
Okay, seeing none, public comments on items not listed on our agenda. So citizens that are wishing to speak on issues that are not currently on our agenda are requested to send a message in the chat section of the Zoom or raise your hand. The chair will call on you. And comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. If required, action will be assigned to county staff after public comments. So we'll start with the Zoom. Christy, if you'd like to go ahead with your public comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Fiedler, or sorry, Commissioner Marcella.
Okay.
I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the Fair Housing Fair that we have scheduled for October 21st. Sarah got to hear my pitch today and Jeff heard it this weekend. So it's mainly for you, Commissioner Marcella. We are having a fun / educational event where we're hoping to invite more community members to engage in the housing work. We've heard that it can be a little overwhelming to try to figure out what's going on with housing or learn how to engage. So we're trying something a little different. And we're going to have popcorn and cotton candy and free tacos and all that jazz, as well as some like circus style games. And then we're going to inside Freight have some education opportunities for community members to learn about resources, as well as like the development process and why it doesn't quite work the way we want it to, and all that jazz. But I am also going to have a pie throwing station, and I'm offering it first to elected officials. If you guys would like to work a 20-minute section of getting pies thrown at you before I take it to other public officials. So I'm offering it to you guys first, and then I'm going to take it to City Council tonight. Tim Bergman has already generously offered his face to get the pies at. So just wanted to give you guys that opportunity if you wanted to volunteer with us in that way.
Thanks,
Sure.
Chrissy.
Thanks,
I definitely would have not around that weekend, unfortunately. But.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Christy,
Hearing a
can you say-
lot of that recently.
Yeah. Can you say the date one more time, Christy?
It's Friday, October 21st from 4 to 7.
Oh, I should be free to do that, Christy.
Oh, yay. Thank you. Okay. So I'll follow up with you about a time slot that will work well for you. Thank you, Commissioner Fiedler.
Thank
And
you.
we look forward to seeing you out there.
Bye. Thanks, Christy.
Bye.
Is there anyone else that has any public comment for us today? Anybody here? No? Good. Okay. Wonderful. Okay, thanks everyone. So we will move on from public comment into new business. First on our agenda today is the Hazard Mitigation Plan Grant County Match. So that we have two options that we will be going over today, asking for an approval of up to $2,900 cash match and $2,600 of in-kind match for a total of $5,500, dependent on city match for the hazard mitigation plan. The city would be requested to provide $520 of in-kind and $725 of cash if granted, or asking for approval of up to $5,377 of cash match, $2,905 of in-kind match for a total of $8,800 or $282, dependent upon city match. So today we have Meredith with us from the Department of Homeland Security, and Mark Thompson. And so if you would just like to walk us through the hazard mitigation plan options, that would be great.
Yeah, Mark, if you want to take the lead on this one, that'd be great.
I will, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. I am the State Hazard Mitigation Officer in the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. The two options before you are founded upon a 5-year update to your hazard mitigation plan that creates a shared understanding of risks for the entire county, as well as Leadville, and then any special districts that choose to participate. And that creates eligibility for the participating jurisdictions to apply for and receive mitigation grants from FEMA that we administer. So that could be wildfire mitigation, flood, landslide, avalanche. There's a whole plethora of hazards and options out there. The second option was something that we worked very closely with the State Forest Service several years ago to create, because until very recently, there was no funding source to update a community wildfire protection plan. There is some of that now, but there's a lot of overlap in the hazard mitigation plan with respect to wildfire and what the State Forest Service requires for community wildfire protection plan updates. And so this is an opportunity for you to use FEMA's money to update your hazard mitigation plan to FEMA's requirements, and then take a lot of that work, and you can enhance the work or dig a little deeper on the wildfire part of your mitigation plan. And then you can take that and copy and paste it into a separate document that you submit to the State Forest Service as a new CWPP. And that's really what the choice before you is, whether or not you want to formally update your CWPP or not. Yours is currently dated in 2015. So by relative standards in Colorado, it is a pretty recent plan. Although the U.S. Forest Service just released a new wildfire mitigation program that requires actions from either a hazard mitigation plan or a community wildfire protection plan that are less than 5 years old. So, but really that's what the choice is, whether or not you want to also update your CWPP.
So Mark, we actually just went through about a year-long process to update our CWPP. We acknowledged that and finalized that process in July of this year. So as a whole, the document is updated from just the conversations with subdivisions, and Adam Moore with the Colorado State Forest Service was a big part of that and went through to make sure we ticked all the boxes with requirements. I'm confident that we hit that mark. I guess I'm less, I wonder if there's other opportunity to, as you said, dive deeper into some of the goals that we had identified through the CWPP, and how we can, look at some of those included in our current document now are developing a long-term plan for the full public land acres in the county, preparing the community for wildfire by ensuring all residents in high-risk zones have evacuation plans, and are kind of fire-wise and fire-adapted community ready. One of our goals is to take action to improve post-fire response planning. And each of those we don't dive into in depth in the new CWPP. So do you understand if there's an opportunity to incorporate goals like that or elements of this, our plan, to kind of elaborate on those with this opportunity?
Yeah, first, let me say that I do have the State Forest Service website pulled up right now, and it still lists the 2015 plan. So it may not have gone through the full submission and approval process, which happens sometimes. So
we can work on it. Our website actually doesn't have our new plan either.
yeah. And that's okay. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. So there may be a couple of administrative steps that haven't been met yet on that. But to get to your question, I have the email you forwarded to Meredith on Friday afternoon. So the first one, develop a plan and resources to support implementation, community, and tracking of plan results. I mean, that's inherently part of the mitigation strategy. And then the maintenance strategy within a hazard mitigation plan, right? You create this strategy of actions. You commit in the implementation and maintenance part to reconvene annually or following a disaster and give status updates and try and keep it a living document. So that part's easy. That's organically a yes. Develop a long-term plan for full public land acres. I assume that's a long-term mitigation plan. Not like a usage plan or anything like that. Is that right?
I think it could incorporate all of the above.
Okay.
I know the Forest Service, we are primarily Forest Service, U.S. Forest Service lands.
Yep.
And they, of course, kind of follow their own priorities and timeline. A lot of that, I mean, this is a very generic statement in, how do we work to be good partners and support the Forest Service on getting funding, and how can we kind of attract that support with them. How do we get neighborhoods to connect with the Forest Service and like perhaps shift priorities, or working through USFS and CSFS, because we understand that CSFS can move is a little more nimble in
Mhm.
like working with neighborhoods and around certain acreage. So I think that we also have a lot of kind of land use and zoning considerations that, you know, we want to keep the conversation going on how those impact risk.
Yeah, and so another part of the process of the HMP process is to incorporate information from other community plans into this HMP update. But then at the back end of the plan is to describe how you're going to incorporate the new HMP back into the next update of those other community plans. So that could include land use planning, comprehensive planning, parks and open space, trails, whatever community plans are out there. I mean, really, the right people to have at the conversation throughout the mitigation plan is anyone who or any agency who touches or is touched by natural hazards, which is pretty much everybody. So through that process, you can do that. Then the next one on evacuation planning. So unfortunately, the FEMA planning requirements and dollars are pretty siloed, and evacuation planning and evacuations happen in what FEMA calls the response mission area, right? Because you only really need to do that when the fire is at your door or whatever the hazard is. But what you could look at through this process and potentially fund mitigation work through these FEMA programs is to do risk analysis of all of your critical infrastructure to include critical roads and determine where and how you want to mitigate risk to those pieces of infrastructure, right? So we're not talking about building new evacuation routes in our silo or our mission area. We're not talking about planning for evacuation, but you might say, we know that these are our primary routes we're going to use. Let's make sure that they're not at risk to wildfire, flood, whatever the case may be. And then the post-fire response planning is sort of the same, with the exception of if you were to do an analysis or include analysis that said, if there was a large fire on this particular piece of ground due to its slope and topography and all that, what does post-fire flooding look like there, and who's downstream of that? Then you could start to plan for that, and you could potentially use that analysis to apply for a future grant, probably not from FEMA just because of the federal land ownership in Lake County, but maybe from the U.S. Forest Service, the State Forest Service, through the Forest Restoration and Wildfire Risk Mitigation Program, BURWRM, perhaps through the Department of Natural Resources Strategic Wildfire Action Program, COSWAP, which you currently have an application in for, or the Nature Conservancy or a lot of other potential groups. So that's really the part of post-fire planning that would be appropriate to this effort. Rebuild, and that could include, okay, let's go back and do reseeding, slope stabilization, all that kind of stuff, but not how are we going to get people back into their houses? How are we going to rebuild homes in a burn area, right? That's outside of what we can do. Does that answer your questions?
Yeah, no, I mean, it seems like that evacuation route identification, the post-fire treatment and mitigation, preventative mitigation, all of that would be applicable to the county. And I apologize for not necessarily tracking then do we have to make another decision on whether or not we want to include that in the HMP, or that's just like that's just part of this. I mean, I was a part of the last HMP process. And because we've done the CWPP so recently, I think we can kind of then maybe make the next step to some of those more detailed
Right.
areas.
So it sounds to me like because you've already done the CWPP work, the two choices that are on the agenda today, the second choice is sort of off the table, right? Because that additional funding was to do the CWPP update. So it doesn't sound like that choice. It sounds like that choice has already been made. So really, the next step, I think, and I think Emily Palmer's been working with Tim Bergman, the county manager, on the application process for the HMP grant. So I think the next step then is once you affirm the decision to seek the lower amount of match, is really to take the model scope of work that we have provided or will provide, and then make the adjustments that you want in there, like some of the discussions we've had today. And then we'll work with you on that to make sure the scope of work is appropriate and allowable with FEMA, and then they'll review that. So I think that's probably the next step once you affirm the decision on the funding amount.
Okay, and so option 2 is then off the table because of the CWPP work.
I think so. I mean, I'm not ruling it out for us, but it seems like it at the county, you've already done that.
Okay. I don't have any questions necessarily.
Okay. No, that sounds like it makes a lot of sense. Sorry, my computer
No, that's okay.
my charger's not working. So we have to affirm, do we have to affirm the amount in front of us, or just the tiered grant that we're applying for? It says approval of up to 2,900 cash match and 2,600 of in-kind match for a total of 5,500.
And then, excuse me, we'd have to make a formal ask to the city, and if the city didn't participate, we would be on the hook for their match. Okay.
All right. That sounds great. All right, I'll move to approve moving forward with the hazard mitigation plan grant match of up to $2,900 cash match and $2,600 of in-kind match for a total of $5,500.
Okay, go ahead, sorry, Jeff.
Oh, I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion?
No. Thanks for showing up. It's really great to have something so quick on the heels of going through the CWPP process to keep the momentum and dig deeper into all those elements.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome, and thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you so much. I think shirt is off. Charger might work. Sure. Okay, moving on to our next. Next on our list is agenda item number 3, which is now agenda item 2, review of proposed contract with HR Plus to perform an equal pay for equal work analysis. Claire, do you have any information on this that you'd like to share, or Chris?
We got a very brief download from Tim. He's out sick today. But this is kind of on what Commissioner Marcella has worked on, well, all of us as well, on the salary banding and their wages throughout the county and competitive compensation. And then this might be one of the last kind of pieces to plug in on making sure that job descriptions are accurate and that pay, the work that's being done is consistent with the compensation. So I don't have any questions on this.
I don't either. I just am really looking forward to getting this completed and accomplished.
My suggestion would be if y'all want to go in and just to approve it pending legal review.
Final legal
And I work with HR Plus before. I don't anticipate there being any substantial
Okay.
issues.
Yeah, and HR Plus is we're currently
Yeah.
a member of theirs, and they've worked with us to support our HR department and
Mhm.
county manager over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Um,
And so they'll just take all that information we have done and move forward.
all right, I'll move to approve the contract with HR Plus to perform an equal pay for equal work analysis pending final legal review.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right, any further discussion?
Nothing.
None for
None
me.
for me either. Okay, thank you for moving this forward. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
I,
thank you very much. Moving on to the MOU with the Upper Arkansas Area Agency on Aging to provide Tai Chi. This is a contract with the COG to provide recreation programming to our senior population. It's a renewal contract. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Commissioner Sykes, you have it? Okay. We will make sure that you look at that.
Just lay eyes on it.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Fiedler, do you have any questions or comments on this?
I don't.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the MOU renewal with the Upper Arkansas Area Agency on Aging to provide Tai Chi through the Recreation Department.
Second.
Pending final legal review.
Okay, any further discussion?
No, thank
No.
you.
None for me.
Okay. None, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Okay. Next on our agenda, and we moved number 6 off the agenda. We punted it to our next meeting.
Oh.
So we're moving to number 7, which is so. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I didn't think anybody was gonna be here, and Tim's not here, and Jeff is, but is that, I don't know. Does that
That's
throw
okay, I
it-
do have, I have a land use application that's pending, but that's fine.
Okay,
That's-
okay.
That's
okay, so we'll move into number 7, which is a request for easement
okay.
over county-owned property by private property owner Aaron Wester. So you are all welcome to. Oh, do you need
Yeah,
this?
I'm just gonna queue
Sure.
up some information. So just to start the discussion, these are the Westers.
Hi.
And so,
Yeah, we're both
Aaron.
Aaron, so, yeah.
Nice to meet you.
One Aaron is sufficient for the two of us.
And so staff is bringing them to introduce them to the board today. We've got some information that they've sent over with their a driveway sketch of what, basically what their ask is on the county parcel. They've also provided the easement language from the adjacent parcel. So I think it'll make a little more sense. I'm just gonna go into the board's email and grab those documents real quick. To be able to screen share them.
Yeah.
There we go. So let's go with this one first. And the other thing we can do is pull it up on GIS too. So let me just open that and minimize it and then go into here. So they're both available. Okay. And then would you like me to start by just pulling up you want to see it on the map first and then see the
Whatever
driveway
you-
permit?
Do you want this chair?
Do you want me to come over there?
I'm not, yeah.
No, you can, yeah, whatever you want it, or yeah, here, move my office. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
That's okay.
Okay. And I think Bryce changed the roads on our planning map. I don't know which one to use. So I'm gonna go to our planning map because I know last time we pulled this up, there was a different, I think it actually might.
Oh, yeah,
parcel.
there was a
Um,
different alignment.
Yeah, but let me add a little note so I can easily pull their quick, but.
I can just memorize the shape of it and which one it is.
307. Okay. Screen share that. Okay.
Yeah, you can close that too.
So, so this is an ask from County Road 6C through the county-owned parcel here to the Westers property. Oops, so sorry.
That one right there.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
One more.
Hard for me to say.
One more.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, to the Westers. So what we're gonna show you and what they brought in is their sketch of their driveway, which will give you an idea of the length, what they approximately, they think the length of this is going to be. They have an easement that are in the docs that I can share from the private property owner for a 12-foot easement across this parcel to get to theirs. So they already have this connectivity. They are seeking the connectivity from here to there, and we have those documents. And so I'm going to just turn it over to them just a little bit to talk about what, the nature of their request and why they're asking, and then I can pull up whatever documents that it will help the discussion.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay.
So I need to chat? Yeah, go for it. So we're requesting an easement on the county land to gain access to our parcel. As we started talking with Ian and Marla, we were like, how are we gonna do this? There's already kind of a dirt road that goes through there that connects with the Elk Run Trail. But it is the Elk Run Trail. But there's some improvements to meet the standards of the driveway and the driveway permit. We're not asking for like a complete new build, it's just on that land and on that trail that's already there. Needs to be widened a little bit, there needs to be some work done with cutting down some trees and branches and that sort of thing, so that we can get into where we can get in there-ish now, but in order to bring in to drill for a well and all the equipment and those sorts of things.
Go to view. Oh, there we go. Okay.
So that piece you can see going through county is 587 feet. There's already access from what we call like the lollipop of County Road 6C. It's utilized now as a mountain biking, cycling, hiking, trail running, as well as a dirt bike. And it goes all the way through the parcel of Rainier. Our parcel is Wester, and then I think it's Lee to the east of us. Then it connects onto a mining operation. So access is already there.
Just need to get it to the right standard before the driveway.
So, what Chris staff was saying that this should, I guess a discussion too and a discovery is needed. If this trail exists, I still think that, there still needs to be an easement to memorialize, and absent any other known method of use. I think still an easement that would memorialize from here to here, this, what do we got? 587 feet through the county parcel with a legal description of that portion to be included in an easement agreement. They were to decide to approve that access.
It's currently the bike trail?
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. in
There's
terms
an
of-
informal trail,
It's in-
and I don't know if if you're using that as an example of just the access that exists up there, or you propose to put your driveway on the trail. It's not clear from looking at the map to me
So
who's,
we had a discovery conversation with Sterling Mudge, who's the executive director of Cloud City Wheelers. And because when we first walked onto this trail, we didn't know anything about it. It just seemed like there was a lot of traffic on it during the winter, as well as then throughout the spring. And so I reached out to a couple of people that I knew with Cloud City, introduced us to Sterling, and then he's the one, as well as another business owner, Smokey, who runs the consignment shop down there. And they kind of keyed us into, oh, hey, you guys are talking about Elk Run. And so that's what got us onto the idea. It's like, oh, okay, it's Elk Run. We didn't know what was actually going on. It was just a thoroughfare of motorcycles.
It's informal,
It's
yeah.
just been there for a long time.
informal, yep.
And so in conversation with Sterling, yes, sort of taking over Elk Run, but we've communicated with him as far as a reroute for Elk Run. Because if that's gonna be a driveway, we've already had interactions with, motorcyclists not yielding. And so if it's a driveway and there's heavy equipment on there as it's being built, then we have talked with him as far as like, oh yeah, hey, maybe we could work on a reroute that still goes through our property. We certainly don't want to take away. We're cyclists, we're hikers, we're runners. We want that to exist because it opens up a lot of extra area for us to utilize the trail network up here. Yes, a driveway over the existing piece with then us helping the Wheelers on a reroute.
Okay.
That
So-
would go through our property and just a little bit further south.
So just so that I understand, why would you reroute it? Why wouldn't you look for a different method? Well, I guess, so this portion that's been granted an easement through this private parcel is the trail?
It's a little confusing, we're not sure.
Okay,
We're trying to parse a lot of information together. It may be at some point, the previous owner bought a parcel, created this portion of it. It's wide, it's the size of a vehicle. So it's, at the onset, it's a dirt road. And then it turns into a smaller trail as you continue on. About at our property line is when it becomes more of a single track.
Okay.
So we're like, maybe that started as a driveway, then it became a trail. I don't know the order of operations, but that
so
it already exists, so we would like to use what was there, so we don't have to then cut through a whole nother portion to create something as large as a driveway. A single track, creating another single track seemed like a better idea.
Well, I think
We're
the
open.
first thing you have to do is, and you have the survey, I think you have to discern whether this is your recorded easement or not. Like, so if the trail is the recorded easement or not, I think that has to be established first, because let's look at your easement.
Is that that's Rainier's.
Right,
Yeah.
And that used to be
So-
Bob Hart's
And that's
property.
Hartzell's who had, okay, so
Yeah.
well, it might help. I understand that the Wheelers, to make the trail more formal, have been in communication with landowners up there to see if they would dedicate easements through their properties to make the trail legal. That happens piecemeal. Obviously, here's a great example. Bob Hartzell was willing to do that before transferring his property. But there is no requirement or easement for any adjacent landowners to do the same.
And the easement that we have is for, being able to go through Rainier's property heading in, but
right, well, I'm sorry, let me go to the screen share just for.
we weren't shared any easement about the trail. I don't know if one existed, but it
At the time
wasn't
of the
included.
purchase, we didn't know that the trail even existed.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
and when the salesman, the real estate guy representing Mr. Hartzell, he's like, hey, yeah, you guys just drive up this. And so we're driving up it.
Yeah.
And so this is the driveway. This is how Bob always got into his property.
Mhm.
And that is the same as the trail?
Well, that's what I
Okay.
think needs to be determined, that, so this is the recorded driveway easement from the Rainiers to Hartzell. And, which doesn't include, the county parcel. I can't see the.
Yeah,
It does,
it
is
does
this,
include-
is this just,
That's-
this portion?
So
That
that is
portion
the
is the
county.
county.
But this easement could have only, can only include the Rainier property. It couldn't, so even though there's some.
Is there actually an easement? Like an additional easement other than
That's
this is the driveway easement? Or,
This-
This is what we have.
Or what
When
this
Bob
is,
Hart,
is,
when Bob Hartzell sold his property, he incorporated this
no,
easement, right?
no, the
No?
Hart,
No.
so the
Yeah.
Rainiers granted to Mr. Hartzell just the portion through their parcel. That's all that. And so when I talked to Bob, I had told him before he transferred the property that didn't create any connectivity, because there still wasn't this portion that was through the county-owned parcel.
Okay, so there's nothing recorded on the county.
Right, so there's nothing recorded on the county parcel. This is the only easement that of record is just for the portion of the Rainier. So when this came in, when the building permit came in and the driveway permit came in, and I saw that there was nothing of record from County Road 6C to this parcel,
Mhm.
that's when, started having the conversation of there needs to be some conveyance from the county for this portion. Albeit that this is an exhibit to the Mr. Rainier to Bob Hartzell, but he couldn't convey anything, obviously, that he doesn't own. So it would only be this portion. And so then if there is, an informal trail up there, I think there's been perhaps there's a reliance that trail signifies, this portion. But I think that all has to be surveyed and figured out. Because they do have a legal right. Well, I would defer to, I won't say that, I'll defer to the county attorney, but per the easement agreement, Mr. Rainier or the Rainiers granted to the Hartzels an easement for access for the portion through their parcel, and this is the map that depicts it.
And I'm sure that map is the two-track, because I've driven it, I drove it
Okay.
with Mr. Hartzell,
Mhm.
because that road was existing, that's why I told him he probably didn't do anything from the county. But I know we've come a long ways from that.
So Mike, are you saying that the part across the county is a two-track
Mhm.
trail that
Yeah.
was already existing
It's-
when that easement was granted?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it existed all the way onto the Hartzell property, because I drove it with him.
Right. But
So basically, I know that they're only looking for the same thing that we did to, the guy down on the National Union,
Mhm.
Todd Ennis,
Mhm.
basically the same thing. It connects, Todd didn't have anything except for another driveway down there.
Mhm.
This was already an existing road across county property.
And I think it was road, right?
Yeah, no, as I say.
It's a
not-
trail. Let's
Well,
be
you're
really
right,
it's not
careful.
a
There's a
trail,
picture of
it's
it.
a
Let's be
trail.
really careful about.
A two-track,
It's probably a Jeep
unimproved
It
road.
was
I mean,
put in by use.
Yeah, I
I mean,
remember.
a Jeep,
Huh?
it was probably ended up, I know Bob, Jeep Road, kind of is that what it
Yeah.
probably originated as, a
Yeah.
Jeep Road?
Yeah, probably.
But I would say just to secure title and
Yeah.
to secure all the
Yeah.
things, an easement needs to be.
Somebody went through there and cut down trees and created a
They-
road.
There's
You
even
don't know.
there's even open mining up there, so there was obviously mining that happened up there.
That was gonna be my next question in terms of what, for the county property, it looks like y'all, in terms of these, were taken care of with the Rainier property or whatever. But the county property, what if anything is that used for, what does it have on it that we have to be concerned with? That's what I would wanna know before
Right,
we
for
just grant
liability.
the easement, where it's requested.
I think just the bike trail, right?
Is there anything?
Well, I
is
wouldn't,
there-
I mean, I wouldn't call it a bike trail, and I'm not sure that the trail is like of concern here, honestly. I mean, it is something existing, it's like a parallel effort of a
Yeah.
club to formalize the trail. I don't think it's the primary priority of like concern here.
Would we need an additional easement for the wheelers?
Well, I'd wanna know, we'd have to have some sort of an access agreement or something with the wheelers, especially if it's going to, that should be in place if in fact it's being used for
I
any
don't,
type of wheelers activity.
this is not, I mean, it's not, speaking on behalf of, it's not being used for wheelers activity because it's not connecting to legal trails. This trail eventually connects to county property and CMC property where there's a legal
Trail, yes.
There
agreement,
is-
the
okay,
trail
yeah.
system, and the
There's a lot of
effort.
public use, I can
Well, that's
say.
what I was gonna say.
There's a lot of public use, but it's
I
not
don't know.
formal.
Nothing has ever been formally established for
Nope,
that.
nope, and it's not I mean, it's not promotable, it's not advertised, there's no events
as
that
part
take
of
place
the-
on it.
Yeah,
Although I guess I can't speak for other, like, there's a lot of events that happen, I don't know if Lifetime gets permission up and in there anywhere.
The 50 doesn't go up there.
Okay,
50 progresses that way, but it doesn't go
Right.
on that trail system.
I mean, if we are doing that and you want to ask the Wheelers if that is like another piece to the puzzle of the effort of like putting together the mosaic of property owners that might make an agreement, that is something that the county can ask.
If I may, so this informal trail that goes through and comes up to y'all's property, where does it go once it hits your property?
So it goes eastward.
Does it go
onto-
straight through your property?
Yes. And it goes eastward into Lee, and then one more parcel over from there. It's a series of old mining roads, and it's a mining operation. I think it's Newmont. In conversation with Sterling, he's been working with Newmont to make it legal to be on Newmont's property. Because this continues.
I don't know that we know how far down the trail continues.
But it
does go
continues
straight
past
through.
your property.
Yes.
It goes up to County Road 2. County Road 2.
That's correct. And then it can drop in from 2 down to 6E, I think it is, which is down in Iowa Gulch.
And so the other question I would have in terms of just for basic information, the suggestion of moving it, that's, we want to, I guess, get some input in terms of relocating or adjusting where the trail runs, but also I would think that because the public use, if the easement were granted, we want some sort of a, I guess, reciprocal agreement to where you would still allow them to cross through your property as well.
Absolutely.
If that's the intent, to make sure it can still connect and still be used for public purposes, if you look at that.
so what are our next steps in this process then,
I
Anne?
need more information. I think maybe it'd be worth, I hate to say a work session or something, or bring in Sterling with Cloud City and stuff and chat about if they want to take over this as part of it because of the connections it eventually makes, what their proposal, what they would want to see happen, to get some feedback from that. Otherwise, again, I'd want to make sure that in terms of realigning the trail somewhere else, that we're not then putting it into an area that has mining, hazards or anything like that.
If I'm right, there's not much place that can do, because it's right up. Pretty much straight up and down.
That's the kind of information.
Yeah.
I think that our concern is about if we're driving on this driveway, that we don't want there to ever be any safety concerns as cyclists or hikers or whoever. That just feels a little too multi-use for me. So
What level of improvements you mentioned earlier, you want to make improvements to bring it up to the standard for a driveway?
So driveway would be a minimum of 12 feet.
So that's,
so it needs to be widened, not by much.
15,
I think we measured it. How wide is it now, 8 or 10?
Yeah, I think it varies, but it's at least 12 feet now, and I think by the driveway permit standards and requirements, it has to be between 12 and no more than 15.
Yeah, so maybe widen slightly. There's a lot of, when you first enter the property from County Road 6, there's like an aspen grove that's kind of done an archway, which is lovely, but you can't safely get through there, especially if you're.
I don't wanna touch it though.
So there's probably some trees that need to be trimmed. Probably a little slight widening, perhaps road base put down to kind of deal with some of the larger holes. But that's about it. We're not planning on any pavement or anything. That's about it, so just kind of drivable.
The other, I just, for the purpose of like the record, I mean, you guys, your property is part of a small little island of urban residential zoning in that area, and I just want to say that out loud and as many times as we can when we talk about this publicly, because we are having challenges with other industrial mining zones.
That's it, it's
parcels.
isolated. I think it only goes, that urban piece only goes due north into 2 other parcels, and there's one adjacent. Everything else is mining, industrial mining.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next steps are to,
I think we need some more information. And I guess if it's not, and part of the question would be if it's not already part of the Wheelers' either active routes or projected trails that they want to engage with the county on. Want to bring them in for that purpose or such, or if you just address this based on their request and what's there becomes the continues to be the informal trail to continue to connect, the
Right.
Elk Run Trail type of thing.
go ahead.
Yeah, I also think it would be good to, to consider the dual use, if we go with the second option, I think for liability and state health and safety, we just have to think about, the potential for conflict for this established trail, or however we were referring to it, this route, to be utilized for driveway purposes, and certainly during construction. So that's the big, I think, will be the big lift, and so we have to consider, I think that. And how
What's your
that's gonna be.
timeframe if the commissioners approve this, what would be your timeframe for doing this?
Well,
Sorry.
Are you been trying to get it done this year, or you thought that?
if the weather holds, we would like to try to get the driveway sorted, because obviously that's the linchpin to then the next steps. Which we'd hopefully be able to do in the spring. Well, and septic.
So let's see if I can share my thoughts coherently. So the existing non-formal trail goes along here. And I think this has shifted a little bit because the mapping shows that alignment actually a little more down here. So this is what is used to, this is County Road 2.
Right.
I might imagine, and I honestly do not know, I mean, these are resurrection properties, this is resurrection, this is resurrection. So between, if it's just your property then in agreement with what might happen with resurrection, it's another one property owner here with a reroute that may come up here through all agreeing folks and just get here rather than even using the existing alignment.
Are you talking about that for the trail?
That might, yeah, for any trail. So we might, I mean, I suggest talking to the Wheelers and understanding what the idea, the concept is of rerouting before we combine issues that might not need combining,
And
and we
that's why I'm
might not
saying we
even
need more
need to be
information.
involved if that's then a separate
Yes.
Wheelers issue and ongoing to try to formalize any trails. Does that make sense?
Yes, and that's
so
why
I
I'm
think it should
suggesting
be-
for like a work session, or even if it's just a meeting with Andy, them and Starling or whatever,
Yeah.
just to collect more information.
I think that would
As to
be,
what the Wheelers
that
Yeah, I'd
latter
like to see that.
conversation sounds,
I think establishing what the use is
Appropriate.
then, if the use, and because it sounds like you've got two potential demands on the road, and so sorting those out, a request and some historic use, so just sorting out how those could be reviewed and vetted.
yeah, how they can be, and that'll be important too in communicating and signing, and you combating users up there who are like, do this now? No, you can't.
Yeah,
It's
we've already
private
had
property.
people come and protest when we've been out there, like, why's your car up here? What are you doing up here? We're like, hi, we're new. We own this place, but have a good run. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
but yeah, I
Have
think
a collective message of
Yes.
what
Yeah.
is and could potentially happen up in that area. That would
We're-
probably be beneficial.
we're super flexible people and would love for the community to still be able to have use of the trail.
Because it's pretty.
It's pretty, we would like to get to our property, and then also make sure that like the uses overlap appropriately, because we've got two kids, we also don't want them like running out and they're,
Yeah.
lots of traffic, so.
Plus, you don't necessarily want to invite other cars and motorized potentially use, like, which might increase if you improve that road.
Right.
It would be a private drive. How do we,
So it'd
private
be,
drive
it's an
through public
exclusive
property?
easement, it's
Yeah.
just an access easement that you granted exclusively,
Yeah.
For them.
potentially exclusively to
Yeah.
them.
And
Yeah,
that
so-
it would be posted no other
Yeah, if that's,
motorized use for it.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's no different than the easement that, they have across the adjacent property owners.
Yeah.
This is exclusive to this party, and so that, just before the county, making sure if you've got some historic use, how that's gonna be addressed, and then if the county feels comfortable providing that.
Just one question to that, what if rangers want to use it?
Well, right, well, and
Yeah, we
that's the
rented it out
thing
with
that
that
should
other
have,
one,
I think this ask should have come a long time ago. So I think that'll be another very good point, Michael, so maybe some conversation with them as well. I don't know how they're, is this how they access their property?
We don't know if they access the property.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, they have approached us to potentially buy their portion of the property as well. We're like, hold up.
got some other things to sort out.
Yeah. Give us a few years.
Yeah, it's probably just largely something they can, so.
okay, so next steps,
I was gonna say
They'll
the
have a
I was gonna say, yeah, the
conversation.
challenge is gonna be on the timing.
Yeah, I can't say that, I wouldn't estimate that road construction could happen this year. I don't think that that's feasible. I'm, like, we could do our best, but we've got so many things.
Well, it's because we've got to have that initial meeting, and then it will have to come back to the board again for reconsideration, and we've got,
Expecting an inch of rain, which most likely be snow
yeah,
tomorrow, so.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Don't say that.
Yeah.
Keep the plows.
I just, I don't.
okay,
So,
What do you guys need from us going forward?
I think we've got everything, yeah.
From y'all, it's more collecting information, I think, from the other folks and
Yeah.
looking at stuff at the end, and if you can just send me what you have.
Yep.
And that way I haven't seen it yet, so I can look at it and let y'all know if there are other questions.
Okay.
information that y'all-
We have a template because we've done this recently with, is it Hennis?
Yeah.
Hennis?
Yeah, Todd
Hennis.
yeah.
So we have a template on that, and then is that document you showed Anne a formal easement through Rainier's
Yes.
property?
Yeah,
So
it's
that's-
recorded,
That's
a recorded
already,
easement. That's,
like-
y'all already have that. though,
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah, so
Okay.
it's just the county's property right
Okay.
now, it issued.
Correct.
but Michael brings up a good point, this would also potentially affect that other parcel, and so we should probably include that in the conversation as well.
okay.
Those property owners.
okay.
So, okay, great.
Are we good?
I mean, the
There's no action
timeline
to
is
take right now.
not swift. I think that's clear, and maybe not happening for your construction season.
Well, I was gonna say, because I think the soonest we'd be able to, if miracles happen, would be the second meeting in October, if we're lucky,
Right.
for y'all.
Yes.
That's,
Okay,
sorry, I mean, we're not.
That would be
You're not
perfect, because that's like
telling
my
us anything we
birthday.
hadn't.
That would be a great
Make a
birthday.
note, he wants Larry's birthday present.
Well, so I
We
could
just
reach
don't know
out
yet.
to, we can reach out and set up, get the stakeholders here, to have a conversation with the board.
okay,
Yeah, and I'll work with
Or
Chris.
at least initially with us, and that way
Okay.
we can figure out what the issues are, or who
Perfectly.
needs to be involved before we schedule something with
yeah,
the
that'd be all
That'd
right.
be perfect.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that's good, because we don't necessarily have to, like I said, like mix the two issues, but I do think overall, regardless of whether they're separate or there's some combined effort in that one portion for the easement, I think it's worth us all getting on the same page of like messaging some, like what is going on up there.
Exactly,
Yeah,
no, I
so,
agree.
right.
I'd also like to hear more about the county's, if it's not being used for anything, the potential for future use too, before we put this driveway through it, to see what other uses there might be for that parcel. I'm not familiar enough with what's around it as to what practical use it may have besides outdoor recreation type stuff.
Right, yeah, I think there's.
That's what I was gonna ask.
A couple-
You can't go there anyway, but it'd be part of the land zone.
Yeah.
property.
You know, right, is there, so I think looking at the future land use, having a conversation with county legal staff and the stakeholders, so the Wheelers to have a better understanding, the adjacent, contacting the Rainiers, I think we need to have a conversation with them. And then Michael can help us look at the landfill parcel, and you know, we are always talking about expansion, so I don't know if that's, but anyway, so talking about, you know, all those elements.
It wouldn't be for access through there, it would be just an expansion of the landfill.
Yeah,
Right.
so it,
'Cause
like I
that's-
said, that even the landfill landfill, 64 years is not going to go any further than there, it's just gonna go up. That's correct. I'm gonna build a new Mount Elbert.
Call it Mount Trashmore.
Yeah.
Right,
Nice.
right.
okay,
But I think you make a good point, Chris, and we need to just kind of look at encumbering it.
That's a concern,
Yeah.
and before
Yeah.
we grant, and also look at if there are other options for that, if there's the potential for use, is it something perhaps the county could collaborate with instead of granting the easement, and is there a way perhaps
Yeah.
the county could work on that and with y'all, to allow for an access without granting the easement?
That might be, yeah.
I mean,
really
that's something to think about, if that might be a better way to approach it, and if so, potentially recover some of the cost in doing that. Instead of, you know, the county ends up making improvements instead of y'all doing it, perhaps recovering for the cost to allow that access.
And that whole thing, though.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
that
I mean,
really
I
great
think we
perspective,
had a
yeah.
conversation where we'd be willing to the driveway portion, because getting a plow and then getting out would be ridiculous for you, it'd be
I used to
impossible.
plow that, so I know
Yeah.
how far I can go.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
okay,
So, yeah, to answer your, I will work with Chris for us to schedule something with the stakeholders to have that, and to internally to have that, start those discussions.
okay,
I'd like Michael to be involved too.
Yep.
In that.
Yep,
okay.
absolutely. Yeah, I called him today, I'm like, hey, can you please come?
I know.
By the way, I gotta get up to.
I did, you're supposed to be in Buena Vista, aren't you? Thank you for
Thanks,
coming.
Michael.
Thanks for coming, Michael.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, Ann knows
Jeff?
how to get hold of us if you guys.
Yeah, if
All right,
maybe do it,
perfect.
email, and that way I'm connected and introduced as well. And-
Okay.
And we can connect with, starting.
Perfect. Yeah,
Next steps we can do.
It's gonna take me, so you've had, conversations with the Rainiers?
No,
Do you
not
know?
directly,
Okay.
so Bob
Oh, he may be able to put
Might
me
be a
in
tech
touch with.
connection.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try and see if Bob
He's
can
got
get
their
me.
contact information.
Great, because that's probably the harder piece to track down, so I'll reach out to Bob and try and get that.
Because they are in North Carolina.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, cool. So we can.
Commissioner Fiedler, do you have any questions or comments or concerns?
No, this is a great conversation. I don't think I have anything that hasn't already been asked or raised.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we have a path forward.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you guys so much.
Thank you all.
Yeah,
Nice to
thanks for
meet you.
making the time, we appreciate it.
So when are we rescheduled for, resolution?
Tuesday, October 4th.
Okay.
Sorry, Ann.
No, that's okay.
Minutes, bills and payroll, I have not gone through the minutes. from
I did not
yesterday,
go through the minutes either.
So we
Sorry.
can table that stuff to next time.
Okay.
So we'll table our minutes, but I will make a motion that we approve bills and payroll for the pay periods ending August 26th and September 9th.
Well, second,
Any further discussion?
None for me.
Service officer report.
All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
I
And then I will approve the Veteran Service Officers report or move to approve the Veteran Service Officers report for August 2022.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Thanks.
Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And with that, we don't have any public remaining with us today, so we will adjourn this afternoon at 12:07 p.m. Thank you all.